Bluey's Squid Game Adventure. A horror story with a happy ending. It was a quiet Saturday morning in the Healer household. Bluey and Bingo were playing in their room when they discovered a mysterious pink envelope that had been slipped under their door. The envelope was sealed with a strange symbol, a circle, triangle, and square. "What's this, Bluey?" asked Bingo, her orange ears twitching with curiosity. Bluey carefully opened the envelope with her blue paws. Inside was an invitation written in elegant handwriting. "You have been selected to participate in a special game. Great prizes await the winners. Meet at the old playground at sunset." The two sisters looked at each other with excitement. They loved games. Without telling their parents, they decided to investigate this mysterious invitation. As the sun began to set, Bluey and Bingo made their way to the old playground on the outskirts of Brisbane. The usually cheerful place looked different in the dim light. The swings creaked ominously in the wind, and shadows danced between the equipment. Suddenly, figures in pink tracksuits and masks appeared from behind the trees. The masks were terrifying white with simple black shapes: circles, triangles, and squares. The masked figures said nothing, only gestured for the sisters to follow. Bluey felt a chill run down her blue fur. "Maybe we should go home, Bingo," she whispered. But before they could turn around, more masked figures surrounded them. One of them spoke in a distorted voice. "Welcome to the games. You cannot leave until you complete all challenges. The first game is red light, green light." The sisters found themselves in a large, enclosed area with other children from their neighborhood. At the front stood a giant mechanical doll with glowing red eyes. Its head could turn 360 degrees, and when it looked at you, you felt frozen with fear. "When I say green light, you move toward the finish line," announced the doll in a haunting voice. "When I say red light, you must stop completely. Anyone who moves during red light will be eliminated." Bluey grabbed Bingo's paw. "Stay close to me, little sister. We'll get through this together." The game began. Green light. The doll's back was turned, and the children started moving forward. Bluey and Bingo walked carefully, their hearts pounding. Red light. The doll's head spun around with a mechanical whirring sound. Its red eyes scanned the crowd. Some children had been caught moving and were led away by the masked guards. The sisters stood perfectly still, barely breathing. This continued for what felt like hours. The playground had transformed into something sinister. The familiar equipment now looked like prison bars, and the cheerful colors had faded to gray in the twilight. Finally, Bluey and Bingo reached the finish line. They had survived the first game, but they could see the fear in each other's eyes. This wasn't the fun game they had expected. The second game was even more frightening. They were given a thin needle and a piece of honeycomb candy with a shape pressed into it. "You must extract the shape without breaking it," the guards explained. "You have 10 minutes. Bingo's paws were shaking as she tried to carefully trace around the triangle shape in her candy. Bluey had a circle, which seemed easier, but the pressure was immense. Around them, other children were struggling, and those who failed were taken away. "I can't do it, Bluey," Bingo whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "Yes, you can," Bluey encouraged her sister. "Remember when we played that game with Dad where we had to be super careful with the biscuits? Just like that, but slower." With Bluey's encouragement, both sisters managed to complete their shapes just in time. But the games were far from over. The third game was tug of war, but with a terrifying twist. The losing team would fall into a dark pit below. Bluey and Bingo were separated onto different teams, which broke their hearts. As the rope stretched tight between the teams, Bluey looked across at her little sister. Bingo looked so small and scared. The masked guards counted down. 3, 2, 1, pull. The teams strained against each other. Bluey's team was losing ground, sliding closer to the edge. But then she remembered all the times their dad Bandit had taught them about teamwork and never giving up. "Everyone, lean back together," Bluey shouted to her team. "On my count 1, 2, 3. With a coordinated effort, they managed to pull the other team over the line. But Bluey's heart sank as she realized this meant Bingo's team had lost. She watched in horror as her sister disappeared into the darkness below. "Bingo!" Bluey screamed, tears streaming down her face. The fourth game was marbles, but Bluey could barely concentrate. All she could think about was her little sister. She was paired with a boy from her school, and they had to play until one of them lost all their marbles. As Bluey played, she kept looking toward the pit where Bingo had fallen. The masked guards watched her every move, their presence more menacing than ever. But then, something unexpected happened. As Bluey was about to lose her last marble, she heard a familiar voice. "Bluey! Up here!" She looked up to see Bingo waving from a balcony above. Her sister was alive. The pit hadn't been deadly after all, it was just another part of the game. With renewed hope, Bluey managed to win the marble game. She was one step closer to being reunited with Bingo. The final game was the most challenging yet. It was called Squid Game, a complex playground game that required strategy, agility, and courage. The playing field was drawn on the ground like a squid, with different areas representing different challenges. Bluey had to navigate through the squid-shaped course while being chased by the guards. If she could reach the head of the squid and call out "victory," she would win everything. As she ran through the course, dodging the guards and overcoming obstacles, Bluey thought about all the games she had played with her family. Her dad had always taught her that the most important thing wasn't winning, but having fun and taking care of each other. With this thought in mind, Bluey reached the final area. But instead of calling out "victory," she shouted, "I want to change the rules." The guards stopped in confusion. Even the mysterious game master seemed surprised. "This isn't fun anymore," Bluey declared. "Games should bring joy, not fear. I want everyone to be safe and happy. That's the real victory." Suddenly, the lights came on brightly, and the sinister atmosphere began to fade. The masked guards started removing their masks, revealing that they were actually actors hired for an elaborate game. The mysterious game master stepped forward and removed his mask too. It was Uncle Stripe, Bluey's uncle, grinning widely. "Surprise!" he called out. "This was all a special adventure game I created for you and Bingo. I wanted to see how brave and clever you both were." Bingo came running from the balcony, completely unharmed. The pit had been filled with soft cushions, and she had been watching the whole time from a safe viewing area. "Did we really win, Uncle Stripe?" Bingo asked excitedly. "You both won the most important prize of all," Uncle Stripe replied. "You showed courage, you looked out for each other, and you remembered that the best games are the ones where everyone has fun." The eliminated children came out from behind the scenes, all laughing and cheering. They had been part of the game too, safely watching from another area. As the family gathered together, Bandit and Chilli arrived, having been in on the surprise all along. They had been watching from a hidden camera room, ready to step in if needed. "We're so proud of you both," said Chilli, hugging her daughters tight. "You showed real bravery and kindness." Bandit ruffled Bluey's ears. "And you learned the most important lesson of all, that the best games are the ones where everyone wins in the end." As they all walked home together under the stars, Bluey and Bingo chattered excitedly about their adventure. What had started as a scary experience had turned into one of their most memorable family moments. "Can we play again tomorrow?" asked Bingo. "Maybe something a little less scary next time," laughed Bluey. And so, the Healer family returned home, closer than ever, having learned that even the most frightening challenges can be overcome with love, courage, and teamwork. The mysterious pink envelopes were forgotten, replaced by the warm glow of family togetherness and the promise of many more adventures to come. The end. It was a peaceful Saturday afternoon in Brisbane. The Healer family had decided to go on a camping trip to the remote bushland outside the city. Bluey and Bingo were excited about their first real camping adventure. They found a beautiful clearing near a small creek, surrounded by tall eucalyptus trees. The family worked together to set up their campsite as the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. As night fell, they gathered around the campfire. Bandit told stories while Chilli made s'mores. The girls laughed and played shadow puppets with the firelight. Everything was perfect. But then, in the distance, they heard it. A low, mechanical wail that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It started as a distant hum, like an old air raid siren, but gradually grew louder and more distorted. Through the trees, they caught glimpses of something impossible. A towering figure, at least 40 feet tall, moving between the trees with unnatural grace. Where its head should have been, there were two massive speakers, crackling with static and emitting those terrifying sounds. This was Siren Head, a cryptid that had haunted remote areas for decades. A creature that mimicked emergency broadcasts and human voices to lure victims into the wilderness. "Everyone stay calm," Chilli whispered, pulling the girls close. "Don't make any sudden movements." The creature's speakers crackled to life again, but this time, it wasn't just sirens. It was voices, distorted, broken voices that seemed to be calling for help. "Help us, please, we're lost," came the garbled transmission. For hours, they waited in terrified silence as Siren Head stalked through the forest around their campsite. Sometimes it would play emergency broadcasts, sometimes children's voices, sometimes just that haunting siren wail. But as dawn began to break, something changed. The creature's sounds became less aggressive, more lonely. The sirens turned into something that almost sounded like crying. Bluey, with her incredible empathy, began to understand. I think it's lonely," she whispered to her family. Slowly, carefully, she stepped out from behind the tent. "Hello," she called softly to the towering creature. Siren Head's speakers crackled and went silent. For the first time, the forest was completely quiet. Then, from the speakers, came a sound none of them expected, a gentle, almost musical tone. Not threatening, not trying to trick them, just communication. Bluey smiled and began to play a simple clapping game, the kind she and Bingo played all the time. To everyone's amazement, Siren Head began to mimic the rhythm with its speakers, creating a strange but beautiful musical conversation. The family realized that Siren Head wasn't evil. It was just trying to communicate the only way it knew how. It had been alone in the forest for so long that it had forgotten how to interact without frightening people. As the sun rose fully, Siren Head began to retreat deeper into the forest. But before it disappeared completely, its speakers played one final sound, a perfect recording of the family's laughter from the night before. But this time, it didn't sound distorted or wrong. It sounded grateful. The Healer family packed up their campsite and drove home, forever changed by their encounter. They had learned that sometimes, the scariest things are just misunderstood, and that kindness and understanding can overcome even the deepest fears. And sometimes, late at night, when the wind is just right, they can still hear distant sirens in the forest, not threatening, but singing a lonely song, waiting for someone brave enough to listen. It was supposed to be a simple family trip to the furniture store. The Healer family needed a new bookshelf for the girls' room. But when they entered the massive blue and yellow building, they had no idea they were stepping into SCP-3008, the infinite IKEA. "Wow, this place is huge," said Bluey excitedly. "Can we play hide and seek in here, Dad?" asked Bingo. "Let's stick together, girls," said Bandit. But as they walked deeper into the store, the aisles seemed to stretch endlessly. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting an eerie glow over the maze of furniture displays. "This doesn't make sense," said Chilli, looking at the map. "We should have reached the children's section by now." The aisles just kept going and going, like they never ended. The SCP Foundation had classified this location as SCP-3008, an infinite retail furniture store. Once inside, customers become trapped in an endless maze of Swedish furniture displays, with no way to find the exit. As the store's artificial day cycle began to dim, the family realized they were not alone. Strange, faceless entities in yellow shirts appeared in the distance. These were hostile creatures that attacked anyone they found during the store's night cycle. The family huddled together in their makeshift shelter, built from display furniture, waiting for the artificial dawn to break. Days turned into weeks as they learned to survive in the endless store. But Bluey's keen observation skills uncovered an anomaly in the store's infinite structure. Behind a false wall, they discovered maintenance tunnels that led to the store's true exit. After crawling through the narrow passages, They saw something they hadn't seen in weeks. Natural sunlight streaming through a crack in the wall. "We made it! We're outside!" shouted Bandit as the family emerged into the real world. The SCP Foundation arrived to contain the breach, and the family was given memory-altering treatment. But sometimes, late at night, they still dream of endless aisles and Swedish meatballs. And that's how the Healer family learned that some games are too big to play, and some stores are too infinite to shop in. But they also learned that together, as a family, they could survive anything, even an endless IKEA.